to Shawn
look how
Ashmore's
big my
up
head
there.
is up there. That's weird.
I know you're a massive nerd and always have been as well.
Yes.
So how cool is it to geek out with the fans here and see all the cool props that are here as well? We got the X-Wing. We've got Darth Vader over there.
Yeah, this is these are my people. I grew up reading a lot of Marvel stuff, a lot of DC stuff, a lot of Image stuff. So and watching, sci-fi, fantasy, all that. So for me, this is like a very, very comfortable place to be.
I mean, you were specifically a big X-Men fan growing up as well. You had the comic books. I believe the comic books are still at your mum's house, which is crazy. And you were a fan of the cartoon as well. So
yeah.
Having that growing up and then joining the franchise as a key member, like, that must still give you goosebumps today.
Yeah, it was really exciting, and I think that the coolest thing for me is I felt that there was kind of a shift in the comic book and superhero films that were being made. I mean, obviously Tim Burton's Batman came before us, and also I think Blade was the first. Yeah. And that was when I saw that in the theater. I was like, okay, this is what we can do, and this is what we're capable of turning these stories into. So when I heard that they were making X-Men, I was immediately excited. We shot in Toronto, where I'm from, and I knew that this was going to be something special. And I still remember the day that I got the role. I still remember my first day at work. It was incredible. So I feel very lucky to have been a part of that, kind of at the resurgence, I feel like, of the modern kind of superhero story, and it was amazing to be a part of. And I got to make 4 movies over about 15 years, so it was like we made a movie every couple years. We would go by, then we'd come back, and it felt like a bit of like a reunion every time we did it, which was cool. So I got to know everybody really well.
You mentioned that, like, Tim Burton's Batman, Superman films, they were predominantly the biggest superhero films out prior to Blade and X-Men. So were you nervous because Marvel wasn't established on the big screen at that point before those 2 films? So were you nervous as how fans were going to accept them, or were you just like, this is a sure thing because you knew as a fan of the comics they were huge?
I actually didn't think once about whether it was going to be successful or not. I just thought it was cool. I read the script and I was like, this is going to be great. I didn't actually even think about how it was going to be received. I guess I assumed it was going to do well because I was a fan of it and I knew how deep the stories were and how interesting, the characters were. And like you mentioned earlier, like the cartoon, it was like everybody I knew that was my age watched that show. So I kind of felt like there was a great built-in audience, but I didn't really worry about or think about it was going to be successful. I just thought it was a cool script and it was a cool thing to be a part of.
Was Iceman a character you were always drawn to as a fan as well?
Not really, actually. I loved Wolverine and I loved Nightcrawler. Those are like my 2 favorite characters. So I liked Iceman, but that wasn't necessarily my go-to. I was obviously a Wolverine fan, as most people were. And but I loved Nightcrawler too. I thought that was, if I could have a mutant ability, teleportation is what I would choose. So I think that's why I like Nightcrawler so much.
Definitely. And the original trilogy is absolutely brilliant. And I remember going watching the 3rd one in the cinema in 2006. I was a young boy, and I really wanted to see a direct sequel to that. I wanted to see number 4. Was that ever discussed at that time for you guys? Because they did leave it open-ended at the end of the film as well.
Yeah, I don't really know what happened. Obviously, they went from X3 to First Class.
Yeah.
As far as I knew, there was never talk about a direct sequel. Although I was kind of surprised because I don't think that X3 was the best received, but it did do very well financially, which is sometimes all you need to continue a storyline. I think part of that was maybe Brian, the director that did the first 2 films, left to go do Superman Returns, and so they had a new director in Brett Ratner, and then so I think there wasn't maybe as much direction for where the series was going to go, and so maybe that's why they went to do First Class, which I loved, by the way. But yeah, there was never any talk of a 4th film that I knew of.
And like you mentioned, First Class came out following that, and then you came back for Days of Future Past. Briefly, unfortunately, I was absolutely gutted. I was excited to see
I
you on
died
screen.
many times in that one. I thought my days as Iceman were numbered until I got this random call. I was shooting a TV show in New York, and my manager called me and was like, "You're never gonna guess who we just got a call from." And I was like, "Okay, who?" And he's like, "Fox, and they're doing another X-Men film." And I was like, interesting. And as soon as he said, it's called Days of Futures Past, I knew exactly what the story was. I knew how they would incorporate the two timelines. And I was like, oh, this sounds amazing. So yeah, it was very exciting to get that last chance to kind of come back. And the other thing that I had not done was do the full like ice slide. Yeah, I had to wait 4 movies for that. So when I cracked the script and read that in the opening scene, even though 2 minutes later I got killed, I still thought it was worthwhile to do that full ice slide that I've been waiting so long to do.
And I think everyone here was geeking out when Disney bought out Fox, which meant that the characters that you've portrayed and all the rest of the X-Men cast have portrayed can now be aligned with the Avengers and any other Disney-owned Marvel property. So what is your reaction now seeing Wolverine back wearing the yellow suit? Yeah. I think everyone wants to see you back wearing the yellow suit, get the band back together, and see how you'd cross paths with Deadpool in Deadpool 3.
Yeah, I would love to get a chance to do that again. First of all, I'm stoked for Deadpool 3. I'm so excited to see Hugh and Ryan together and those characters together. Whether the actors that were in the original trilogy will be back, I have no idea. Obviously, I would love to play the character again, and explore the character, explore the world, explore the new kind of universe now that all the Marvel properties could be under one roof. But whether that happens or not, or whether Disney decides to kind of reboot and rehire a bunch of new actors, I have a feeling that's what they'll do. Start fresh, and as an actor who loves playing that character, I will be bummed. But as an X-Men fan, I'm kind of stoked to see the next chapter of the X-Men, whatever that is. And I also will say too, and this happened when I did The Boys. I was a huge fan of the first season of The Boys, and then I got cast in the second season, which I was beyond excited for, and also nervous to screw up. I was like, I want to do a really good job. But once you're in something like that, you can't quite enjoy it as much as a fan, I was a fan of the show, and now I'm in it, I sort of know where the story's going, and so it diminishes the experience. So that's kind of how I feel about the X-Men. It's like if they happen to recast everybody and that's where it goes, I'll be able to go to the movies and watch it as a fan, which would be kind of fun.
Have you been enjoying watching the MCU develop as a whole as a fan?
Loved it.
What's some of your favorite standout films?
There wasn't, obviously the first Iron Man, to me, I could see the building blocks, and so I love that. But pretty much every single film, all those building blocks worked for me. They were all the characters, whether it was Captain America, whether it was Iron Man. I really liked the first Thor film. They all, to me, I could feel the stepping stones, and then obviously building to the Avengers. And so there wasn't a single one where I was like, I didn't like it or I didn't get it. I was kind of a fan of all those films and all those stories, and I liked how they were bringing all the pieces together.
And just touching on the original trilogy again of X-Men, what was a standout moment for you to shoot throughout those whole 3 films?
That's a really good question. So in the first film, there's a scene where Bobby tells Rogue that she has to leave the school, but really Bobby is Mystique. So that scene kind of stood out, first of all, because I knew that that's what the scene was about, but I hadn't met Rebecca at that point, so I didn't know how she was playing the character, and I kind of wanted to incorporate at least something from her into that performance, so that on second viewing, you're like, oh, that was Mystique or whatever. So that was a fun scene and a challenging scene to shoot. From X2, which is my favorite of all of them entirely.
So good. So
yeah,
good.
It's my favorite. Everything was fun there. I think my favorite sequence is probably when Stryker shows up at the mansion, like that first attack on the mansion, and I get to build an ice wall, and we escape through the tunnels and all that. I loved shooting that, so that was really, really fun. And then I also loved the sequence on the X-Jet where a hole gets blasted and Rogue gets sucked out, and Nightcrawler grabs her and teleports in. We got to shoot all that stuff on a gimbaled airplane and stuff, so that was really super fun to shoot. And I think on X3 it was like doing the full ice up and headbutting pyro. That was pretty fun.
You mentioned The Boys before, absolutely perfect casting, and I know the showrunner said that once that you'd been cast, he regretted kind of writing the script because he didn't want to kill you off once he'd seen the performance, which is a shame because Lamplighter is the absolute antithesis of what Iceman is. He's the absolute contrast in terms of his abilities, and he's also a very sympathetic character as well as this story unravels.
Yeah. Well, what I loved and what I love about The Boys is how it subverts kind of the superhero genre. And so it wasn't lost on me that they wanted to cast Iceman to play Pyro, essentially, in The Boys. And I love that. I was like, if you guys want to do that, I'm so game. And I was excited to do that. But yeah, it was a great character. And yeah, when I signed on, it was a 3-episode arc. And, you know, Lamplighter, spoiler alert, if you guys haven't seen it, kills himself. So that was already set, but as we started shooting, I started feeling like, oh man, I wish we had some more episodes, or what would it be like if Lamplighter, you know, teamed up with the boys for a while, because that's kind of where the story was going, is that Lamplighter was going to help the boys. So I definitely had a moment where I was like, oh man, I wish this lasted a little bit longer, but I also loved the storyline. I loved how succinct it was. I loved that, you know, he flamed out basically, you know, and that was kind of what I knew it was going to be when we signed up. So I loved playing that part. It was a lot of fun, but I knew that's what it was going to be when I signed on.
You had a chance to speak to Anthony, Chase, and Laz, because that must be cool being around them again.
Yeah, well, Andy and Chase I hadn't met. I didn't have scenes with them. Okay. But yeah, I met them upstairs, and they were really cool. And but Laz I love, and we got quite a bit of time on set together. And then we also did Dragon Con in Atlanta together, like maybe last year, so we got to hang out there. But yeah, great group of people. That was a fun set to be on, you know. Yeah, I just love that show, so it's really cool, super fun.
You've been enjoying watching that as a fan, following your appearance on the show now, just sitting back enjoying season 3 and looking forward to season 4.
Well, to go back to that thing about being a fan and not necessarily being able to enjoy it when you're in it, yes, I love season 2, but I was always kind of waiting for my character to show up. I knew it was going to happen. Season 3 I had no idea, so yeah, I enjoyed it like a fan again because I just had no expectations or any ideas of what was going to happen or how the story was going to unravel. So yeah, I really enjoyed the 3rd season.
And I can guess that you are a bit of a gamer because you've appeared in Quantum Break and you're in the new Alan Wake 2 game, which I've started recently in the past week. It is terrifying. And you played the original Alan Wake game, didn't you? You was a fan of that, so
yes.
What was that like?
When I watch a movie or a TV show that I'm in, I find it very distracting and I can't really let myself go and enjoy it as an experience. But video games, for some reason, when I'm in them, it doesn't bother me. I think maybe because it's more interactive and but yeah. So I played Alan Wake and Max Payne, which were both Remedy games, and they're the ones that made Quantum Break and Alan Wake prior to being a part of Quantum Break. So I love their storytelling. I love the kind of worlds they created, and yeah, I just feel lucky to be kind of inside the Remedy universe now. And yeah, Alan Wake 2 is out, and it's nominated for Game of the Year and, you know, Best Direction, Best Performance, Best everything, essentially. The game is fantastic. I'm really proud of that. And I'm playing that actually with my best friend and his 13-year-old son. So I can only play it sporadically because we all have to be together when we play it. It's kind of fun. So we're a couple chapters in, and I'm absolutely loving it so far.
Aside from those ones that you mentioned, what have been some of the favorite games you've ever played?
Well, of all time, that's tough. I mean, I'm old. I'm in my 40s, so I'll still go back to I think the original Final Fantasy for Nintendo is one of my favorite games of all time. Mostly because I would play it with my brother and 2 of my friends. So we would all get together and play the game. We all had a character, and so it felt like an experience together. But games that I'm playing right now, I play a lot of Overwatch. I really like Blizzard games. I played a lot of StarCraft in my life. And yeah, I mean, I don't play StarCraft anymore, but I still watch it. Like, I watch the tournaments and stuff like that. But yeah, I play a lot of Overwatch, and yeah, I've been playing Alan Wake, and that's about it right now.
And The Following as well with Kevin Bacon. That was a huge horror/thriller, really dark show, really, really entertaining. What was it like working on that with Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, it was the best. First of all, Kevin is obviously an incredibly talented actor, but just a really nice guy. I've been really lucky with the actors that I've gotten to share the screen with and work with. Kevin was honestly one of the easiest guys I've ever worked with. Nathan Fillion, who I'm working with on The Rookie right now, is one of the nicest guys. And Hugh Jackman, Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, like the whole X-Men crew are like so kind and so amazing. But yeah, working with Kevin was awesome, and I loved that show. That's like right up my alley as far as like my kind of entertainment. I like kind of like a dark drama. So yeah, I love that character. I love that world. And we got to shoot New York for 3 years, and yeah, it was fantastic. I loved it.
Amazing. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. I'm now going to open it up to the fans. So raise your hands if you've got any questions, and we'll get a microphone over to you guys.
Okay.
Hi, so I'm going to start off with a non-sci-fi related one, but you mentioned The Rookie, and I was wondering what your experience is like on that show, and have you picked up any legal jargon?
So, yeah, it's been a great experience. I started on The Rookie in the first season as a guest star, basically. Alexi Hawley, who's the creator of The Rookie, was a writer on the following for the first 2 seasons, and then he became the co-showrunner in the 3rd season. So we knew each other. So I got The Rookie basically because Alexi and I had worked together, and I was kind of looking for a gig, and he's like, yeah, there's a role, potential love interest for this character, like it's just a few episodes, and I was like, oh, that sounds great, I'd love to do that. 6 seasons later, I'm still on the show. So it's been a great experience. Probably one of the most harmonious sets. Like all the actors get along. We have a great crew. It's like a really good vibe, and I think a lot of that is Alexi, our showrunner and creator, but also Nathan. He's just a good dude. I'm sure some of you have met him, through cons as he travels and comes through. But nicest guy, fellow Canadian. So he and I get along really well. And as far as legal jargon, I mean, I couldn't recite any to you off the top of my head. I memorize it, I say it, and then it's in one ear, out the other. So yeah, I'm not very good at retaining all that, but I have learned a lot.
Continuing with The Rookie. What's it like working with all the actors, and who's your favourite that you've worked with so far?
Well, working with the actors, like I said, with that last question, has been great. Everyone's really, really nice. I mean, I love Nathan, but also Alyssa, who plays my wife, is the best. Like, I mean, obviously I work with her the most, but she is funny, talented, super creative, and she made me feel really welcome when I came onto the show. So I would say probably my time with Alyssa on set is probably the best, just because we have the most interesting scenes together, I think. And I love the Wesley Lopez relationship. Like, I like that they're complete opposites and they're always fighting, but they totally love each other and it always works for them. And yeah, it's kind of a fun relationship to explore.
Have you watched Gen X yet, and what do you think of it?
Gen V.
Gen V, yeah. I loved it. I think I've seen the first. I'm not done this season, so I feel like I've maybe seen the first 4 episodes, and I loved it. I was skeptical only because I wasn't sure if I wasn't sure if the show was for me. It's like college age students, so I wasn't sure if it was going to appeal to me. But I actually thought it was better than I expected, and I could relate to the characters more than I thought I would. And it's got that sense of humor and darkness and the stakes that I love about The Boys. Like that, those elements that I love about the show carried over really, really well. So I haven't finished the season yet, but so far I really like it.
In X-Men, your power is obviously freezing and ice. If you could choose another power, what power would you like? Teleportation.
Yeah, if I could close my eyes in LA and Banff here to Manchester, I would love that. I hate flying. I hate traveling. So I would love to just be able to like go bop and go somewhere else. And then if I didn't have that, if I had to choose another one, I think flight. You know, just being able to fly, I think would be really cool. So kind of boring, but those are my two favorites.
Hey. So if you have like a favorite DC character, who would it be?
A favorite DC character? Batman, 100%. I loved the Robert Pattinson. I thought that was, first of all, I had a bunch of people ask me, you know, what I thought of that casting choice, and people were kind of rolling their eyes, and I was like, this is going to be amazing, and it was. I've liked almost every incarnation on screen of Batman. Not so much the Joel Schumacher ones. Like, I don't have anything against it. I get what they're going for, but those weren't necessarily my favorites. But yeah, I think Batman's definitely my favorite DC character of comic books and on screen.
I think that's my favorite Batman film, you know, the Robert Pattinson one.
So good.
So good, man.
Hi, my question's a horror question. What was it like working on the film The Ruins? And if given the chance, would you like to be a part of any other horror franchise or movie?
I loved working on The Ruins. So The Ruins is a movie about these 4 American tourists who are vacationing in Mexico and foolishly wander off the beaten path onto a deserted ruin and then get trapped there to die. It's a very light story. I love the book. I had actually read the novel before making the film, and I absolutely loved the book. So I was excited to get to audition for the film, and then subsequently get to make it. So yeah, my experience on that was amazing. I'm still really proud of that movie, actually. If I could be a part of a horror franchise, of course I would. I would like to be a part of one. There's not one that like jumps out to me right now. I'm definitely. I like the horror movies that really scare me are definitely some of the more classic films, like The Exorcist, The Shining, like all the classics that people say. But that's what really gets to me. The thing that scares me the most, though, and I sometimes won't even go see these movies in the theater because I'm just scared of them, or any kind of like slasher movies do not scare me at all. Monster movies do not scare me at all. But like a ghost story, like an Insidious or something like that. Like that, the first Insidious movie scared the crap out of me. I was like, I'm never sitting through another one of these in the theater. I was just like watching the whole movie like this. So, so if I could be a part of something like that, that's very, very scary and could garner that reaction from an audience, like something like that, like a really, you know, creepy possession or ghost story would be kind of fun to be a part of.
Hi Shawn. I'm a really big fan of The Rookie and The Boys, and it's really interesting seeing you play Wes, who's obviously really easy to root for, and then Lamplighter, who's a lot more morally grey. And I was wondering, do you prefer characters who are like that sort of good, definitive hero type, or do you find it more fun being the bad guy?
I think it's fun to do it all. I think I would get bored if I was just playing the kind of the heavy, and it definitely gets boring just playing the character that's always doing the right thing, you know. So I enjoy playing both those things. But I actually shot The Boys while I was shooting The Rookie. Like I you know what I mean? So I was getting to do it all. It felt like I was like a real highlight in my career because I was getting to work on 2 things that I loved, but that were so completely different. So I'd shoot an episode of The Rookie, then I'd go shoot The Boys, and then come back to The Rookie. So it was like my head was all over the place. But yeah, I mean, this is a safe answer, but the answer really is that I enjoy doing it all. I think if I just got pigeonholed doing one thing, which I did for a long time, where it was like, especially post X-Men days, it was like, okay, well, you know, you're going to get to play a heroic type character or the good guy, which was fun, but it's also kind of fun to go on to the darker path and explore those characters a little bit so you don't get bored playing the same thing over and over again.
Hello, Shawn. one of the special things about Days of Future Past was that we got the road cut when it was released on DVD. And I was wondering if you could just share some thoughts about that with us.
The Rogue Cut, yeah. So, well, the Rogue Cut to me is just Days of Futures Past, because when we read that was the script, we shot that sequence, and I was actually really disappointed. I got a call from Brian, the director, saying, "Hey, that whole section where you go to rescue Rogue we're going to cut it." And my heart dropped a little bit because there was some great stuff in that sequence, and I thought that losing Rogue in that story, and that was such a huge part of Bobby's journey in the cinematic universe. So I was bummed, and I was disappointed. But when I asked him why, because immediately I go to like, oh, I must have been bad in that, they can't use it or whatever, you know. He just said it doesn't make sense. It extends the movie. It's a very cool sequence, and there's some great moments, but the movie doesn't need it. And I didn't understand what that meant until I watched the theatrical cut at the premiere, and I didn't really miss it. I mean, I knew it was there. There's a great scene. I had a scene with myself and Ian and Patrick, and as Iceman, I had never had a scene with those two characters in the same room, and it was just the three of us, and those guys are legends. So I was like, oh, I really love that I get this scene where I'm convincing them that we have to go get Rogue. And that was what I was really bummed was cut out of the film. But when I watched it, the movie in the theater, I was like, yeah, you don't miss that story beat, and they, you know, it complicated the story in a way that didn't make sense. But I was so happy that Fox released the Rogue Cut. I thought that was kind of a cool thing, a cool little Easter egg for fans, and personally for me to be able to see the version of the film that I read and that we shot, that I imagined it. So that's, yeah, I was excited that they actually released that Rogue Cut.
Hi, Shawn. I like you in The Rookie, but my question is, what's the difference between doing TV series to a movie?
Oh. In a lot of ways, they're very similar. You know, like I don't approach a character or the script or anything differently. Obviously, the benefit of being on a TV show is you get to develop a character over years, hopefully. And so if it's a good character and the writing's good, it's exciting. You're constantly finding new layers and levels to the character and putting that character through different experiences, which is fun to kind of explore. The thing I love about a film is you know exactly what, like when you sign on to a TV show, you have no idea where the story's going. You have no idea how they're going to write the character. I've signed on to things liking the character, and then by halfway through the show, I'm like, I don't like where you guys have taken the character, but it's too late. You kind of have to go on that journey. A film, you know exactly what it is. The beginning, middle, the end of the story, and you can map it out like it's a performance. You can like choose where those moments are and how to kind of, you know, journey through the script and through the story. So you have a little more control over your performance in a film because you know, like you know the whole script. So I think that's the pro to being in a film is like having a little more control over knowing what the character is going to be. But on a TV show, if it's good, you get to keep discovering the character over and over again. So that's kind of the difference, I think.
Sorry, it's another question about The Rookie, but if there was one thing you could change in Wesley's storyline, what would it be?
Wow. Well, I find the legal jargon very, very difficult, but that's also a huge part of the character. So I was going to say like maybe less legal jargon, but he is an assistant district attorney, so it's very important. So I wouldn't change that, but I will say that's the most challenging part is like all the legal stuff that I have to say, because I don't understand any of it.
Hey, Shawn.
Hi.
Love to hear that you play so many video games. I'm a video game cosplayer myself.
What do you play?
Well, from this cosplay, I play a lot of Super Smash Bros.
Oh, I play Super Smash Bros with my son.
Oh,
He's a Kirby main, so he beats me a lot. But
good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice. What is your overall favorite moment in The Rookie? I
think my favorite storyline for me was with my kind of nemesis for about a season and a half, this character named Elijah, who was like this kind of drug dealer guy that put my character through the meat grinder. I love that storyline, but there was a scene where he threatens to beat me up in a parking garage that I loved. I just loved shooting that scene. He was really menacing and scary in that scene, and I felt when I watched the scene afterwards that it felt very real. So that was cool. That was a good scene for me.
Thank you.
No problem.
Hi, Shawn. I'm just wondering, how was it working with Ginny and Georgia cast?
Okay. So, this has happened at least 10 times today. That my twin brother is in Ginny and Georgia. But don't feel bad, because you're about the 10th person that's done that today. And it's a daily occurrence in both our lives. He'll walk around and someone will be like, Iceman! And he'll be like, no, that's my brother. And then someone will walk up to me and be like, I loved you in Lock and Key, or I loved you in Ginny and Georgia. I'm like, no, that's my twin brother. So, that's okay. Sometimes I just lie, and I'm like, oh, the whole thing was great, but I didn't want to do it in front of all these people.
Hi again. So, not counting Alan Wake, but what was the last really great game that you just played on your Xbox or PlayStation?
I haven't played any new games recently. I tend to play games where I can like Overwatch is basically a game I play because I can dip in for like 20 minutes and then leave. Otherwise, I'd just be like 8 hours in, and I'd have to pick my son up at school, and I'd be deep in a level, and I can't get out. That's literally what I've been playing is Overwatch 2. That's it.
In the X-Men movies, what was the most challenging scene to shoot, and what was the most fun scene to shoot?
In which project?
In the X-Men movies.
Oh, I think one of the most challenging scenes to shoot was actually the ice slide in Days of Futures Past, because you're in these like really uncomfortable rigs, like a stunt rig, which are insanely uncomfortable, and you're literally hanging all your weight by your crotch and by your like armpits. So it's just not a comfortable thing. And if you're up there for a couple hours, it's very uncomfortable. But that was kind of worth it because I loved how it turned out. So that was probably one of the most challenging scenes. Not bad, it just was like cumbersome and difficult. And my favorite or the most fun scene, well, actually, this actually was my best experience in the entire X-Men experience. There's a scene in Days of Futures Past that we dubbed the campfire scene, and it's basically where Kitty Pryde explains the idea of, transferring her consciousness and traveling back in time. It's like the big exposition dump, like, hey, this is what the movie's about, this is how, this can happen. And it was all of the kind of original X-Men cast, and then there's a few new actors that were kind of like in that time zone, and everybody was really getting along and having fun. But there was this thing that happens every once in a while, like when you watch bloopers of a TV show or a movie, and like just people cannot keep a straight face and get through a scene. And for about, half an hour, we just could not stop laughing. And I feel like it was Ian McKellen that led the charge. Like he just started cracking up for some reason, and then we kept shooting. Like they never cut, because it was like, okay, we got to shoot this scene. Like, and we just laughed for like half an hour over nothing. I couldn't tell you what it was. I don't even think at the time we knew why. It just, somebody started laughing, and then we just all kept laughing. And so that was probably the most fun. And I didn't have any lines in that scene, so I had no pressure. So I just was like, if we messed it up, I was like, that's okay. I'll just keep laughing.
Hi. Do you have a favorite role that you've played?
I have a couple. I think the most important role for me that I've ever played is a guy named Terry Fox, who is a Canadian. He passed away in the 80s, but he lost his right leg to cancer. And in Canada every year we do the Terry Fox Run, where you like raise money for cancer awareness. And he did this thing called the Marathon of Hope, where he started in the east coast of Canada and did he ran a marathon a day for, like, I don't know, 80 days or something like that. Literally 80 marathons back to back and on one leg. And so we I think it was the 25th anniversary of the run. We made a film about his journey in the Marathon of Hope, and I got to play Terry Fox. And he was like my childhood hero. He was like on our dollar coin. So he's a huge Canadian hero. And I got access to his personal journal before making it, and I got to interact with his family, his brother, his sister, and people that were there with him on the run. And I just felt like such a huge. It was insanely stressful because it was like someone that I cared about and grew up idolizing, but then also somebody that I wanted to know more about. And so to play the role and to get to know him through his family and his personal journal was really important to me. So I think that was like the most important role I've ever played. And yeah, it still means a lot, and I still am very proud of it.
Hi. If you weren't an actor, what would you be?
I think I would probably be... In high school, I studied graphic design, and I really loved that. So I probably would be maybe somewhere in that. I'm actually not that artistic visually, but I loved the programs and the design elements and stuff like that. So I think if I had to study that, I probably would have ended up somewhere there. Yeah, I've never had a real job. My brother and I started acting when we were like 10, and I've been lucky enough to just continually do the thing that I love. So I don't know where I'd be. I have no idea.
Anything behind the scenes that you'd be interested in?
Yeah, well, I would love to produce and direct. I'm actually, my best friend and I just wrote a screenplay together. It's actually a horror film that we're hopefully going to star in and produce. So definitely, I think the dream is, as an actor, is to get a little more control in your projects. It's difficult to always just be auditioning and hoping someone says, "Oh, you're the guy." So to take a little more control and create roles and content and stuff like that. That's definitely something that I'm trying to do. But if I was never an actor, I don't know if I would have found my way into that. But yeah, definitely taking control and creating stories would be something that's very important to me.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Well, we got time for 2 more questions, guys. Yeah.
Hi. So
Hello.
My question's about The Boys. So if you put all your relationships that you built with the cast to one side, as a viewer, who is your favourite character to watch? And pretend they're not here today.
No, I would say this if they were here or not here. Homelander is by far my favorite character on the show, 1,000%. And I knew it in the first season when Homelander's doing like the fake tour through his house and he finds a blanket and he freaks out, and then they do that flashback and you realize that what a lonely childhood he had. He was like an experiment, was never loved and all that. I was like, that opened the show up to me. I was like, fuck, it's so powerful and so raw. And so I've loved that character ever since. And I hate that character, but I love to hate him. And I also understand him in a way. Anthony's performance is insane, and I just think that it's a fascinating character. And I think that character and that performance is what makes the show scary to watch, because you just never know when someone's gonna die, and there's always that looming threat, and that's also what I love about The Boys. It's like the boys have no powers. They're just like, vigilantes, and like they could die at any minute, Obviously, there are some characters that come in that have abilities, but like the core group are just vigilantes, and so I love that their lives are in danger at all times.
Thank you.
Final question, guys. You got anyone? Yeah.
Hiya. I was just wondering what your reaction was to seeing Quicksilver in Marvel, either through Age of Ultron or Evan Peters in WandaVision.
You mean the two different versions? Sorry, I mean,
Either version, just if it caught you off guard.
Oh,
how you felt.
Well, I love both. I mean, I'm partial to the Evan Peters version because I know Evan a little bit, and that sequence, when it's the slow motion sequence, the musical sequence in Days of Futures Past was definitely a standout. Not only in that movie, but I think in the X-Men films in general. I thought that was like that action sequence and the Nightcrawler presidential assassination attempt in X2 are two of the most exciting action sequences in all of the X-Men films. So yeah, but I loved his performance. I loved the characters in both, but I loved the humor that Evan brought to that version of the character.
Amazing, guys. Everyone give it up for Shawn Ashmore. Thank you
so
guys.
Much. Great questions. Thank you.